This new plugin wasn't just built for trailer music, it feels like it was made to sit right next to your brass and string sections. I started trying it out and immediately I had the foundation for an entire cue without having to touch a single synth or riser outside of the plugin. It's cinematic and gritty and it doesn't hide behind the orchestra. So I'm talking about a new contact instrument called ASCENT, and it's the first plugin from a company called Viral Audio. It comes loaded with pulses, Braams, textures, and effects, all made to drop straight into a trailer mix without any fluff. But what I found out the real value of this plugin is that it mixes so well with your existing orchestral libraries. I ended up using it to build out about 80% of a cue that I'm currently working on, so what I'm going to do today is pull up that session and let you hear it in action, then I'll break down some of my favorite samples from the instrument. Alright, so now let's take a look at the track that I've been writing, where I probably used 80% of it is the ASCENT plugin. There is a little bit of some percussion in there, just because that library doesn't really specialize in anything percussion based, minus some like impacts and risers and things like that. But risers, whooshes, that is all ASCENT, and the only other thing in there is there's a little bit of some brass and a little bit of some strings in there. Other than that, it's pretty much all using the ASCENT library. So let's check it out. Kind of going through some of the track, some of my favorite kind of highlights of the ASCENT plugin were things like the pads, really the basses, Braams. Those were some of my favorites, and then of course I kind of added some leads in as we went along. So like I mentioned earlier, this actually, I put lead, but it's actually a pad, this alien life form. This kind of started our track. And then I went with the clouds pad, kind of pitched it down between the left and right, creating some space. Just our kind of typical trailer pluck. And then as the track kind of comes in, we went in and I kind of had some fun with the basses to create just a little bit of sound design. We've got, of course, I've got my percussion up top that's mainly like damage and some other things. We've got our risers, kind of our Braams and everything like that, strings. Love that. That just sounds massive. And then when you pair that with the trailer hits, sound design and the basses and pulses. Just kind of give a stutter effect. Heavy on the leads. So I created kind of like a bender section that was kind of cool. It just had the notes of the melody just swell into the actual lead note. Taking advantage of that really long reverb tail and those just kind of delays that are built into the plugin. So let's kind of go through and look at some of these instruments and samples that they've got set up in the ASCENT library. So first of all, you've got a handful of basses, you've got your Braams, downers, leads, pads. We've got some Plucks in there, pulses, and then a riser section, sub booms, trailer hits. They have a section where basically you have the kind of tail preceding the hit on trailer hits, and then a section where they basically just chopped it off where it goes right to the impact, which is kind of nice, and then Wooshes. So what I liked about a lot of these too is that it was really easy to kind of mangle these and kind of do some sound design, but the interface and the layout is really clean. So the way they've got it set up, you have kind of however you want each synth to be set up between. Like this one's set up for monoglide, but I could do polyphonic. Or I could have it set up for what kind of makes a little bit more sense on this, the monoglide. And then I can choose the glide amount, which is really cool. So that's kind of going extreme. Here's kind of halfway. And then I've of course got my high pass and low pass. Being able to edit the start and end time is really nice as well. So, doesn't really make a difference in a patch like this, but when we get into some of the pads and synths, this will kind of make a bigger difference. Really being able to adjust the start and attack time, and then also, of course, the decay, the amount of sustain that we've got, and then the release on it. Dynamics. And then the width, actually, it does bring up the volume quite a bit, but it adds, like it sounds, it does add a ton of stereo width. So if you've got some headphones on, narrow. Again, some of this is going to make more sense on things like your pads and your leads. I did end up doing a lot of stereo widening on a lot of these tracks that I used. So over here we can control what we adjust with the mod wheel. So here's our high pass. Our low pass. So the other nice thing is that you've got a really clean layout. I can switch between the main window, which has all your kind of immediate presets, and then your effects section. So things that you're going to commonly use that I love, not having to throw on inside of Logic or whatever your DAW is. So delays, equalizers, reverbs, compressors, and exciters. The good thing is that they really kind of handpicked these to go against the synthesizers that they use to sample and make this instrument. If I want to enable the delays, really easy to set up. For this, I'm going to actually go to something like a lead. Also love that there is a saturation on the delay. Can adjust our EQ, so if there's something kind of boxy or maybe muddy in there, you can kind of go in and clean it up or accentuate any given part. Reverb, so we've got cathedral, chamber, church, club, concert hall, large hall, and warm space. And then, of course, we can adjust the high pass and low pass on the verb. How much mix and pre-delay I want in there. Which I really love this because a lot of times I do want some synth elements going on in there, and I want to kind of put it in a specific space where maybe it's a little further out, or it's more of kind of an ambient thing that's implied and it's not just a direct synth right in your face. Then we have our exciter section. So if I want to go in here and I want to kind of add some saturation to it, I love this on the basses, for example. A lot of these in the session that I heavily use ASCENT on, I went in and did a lot of kind of manipulation to the controls as well as the effects section. And in some cases, I might have also added just a little bit of kind of external bussing and everything in Logic. Maybe some additional effects, but very, very light. All right, so now we're getting into the Braams. I love these. They did a really, really great job on the Braams section. Definitely has that modern sound that you're going to hear in a lot of trailers. So here's our downers. So now getting to the lead section, we've got about 5 or 6 leads to choose from. So kind of go through those. Very Stranger Things. That's just got a really cool tail on it. So we do have a pretty large pad section, and I feel like this is really, besides the Braams, I think this is one of my favorite parts of the library. So when I was talking about in the beginning of the video where It really lines up well and just kind of blends nicely with the existing orchestral libraries and samples that you've already got. This is the section that really kind of shines through, is the pad section. So, a lot of times you get a pad that you put up against your kind of orchestral stuff, and it sounds like it's too much of a contrast between your orchestral and your electronic. There's no blend. This does a really, really good job of kind of blending those two elements. So this was the intro of that track. Just had a lot of cool like vibe to kind of kick things off. This was another favorite of mine, Distant Dunes. This one actually reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know why. Kind of has that vibe. Guitar Particles. This one's pretty cool. Blends super well with strings. All right, so the Plucks are really nice as well. I really like kind of playing around with these, and I think I ended up using some arpeggiators and things like that that are not inside the plugin with them, but that might be like the only thing that this plugin is lacking is an arpeggiator. But you've got one in your DAW, so do you really need it in here? Not really. I think what they spent the time on makes a lot of sense as far as picking delays and EQs and verbs and exciters that actually match up with the samples that they used. This is like the most probably common and commonly used like piano stab and trailer. It just sounds perfect. Sounds like everything you're used to. All right, so now the pulses, another section that is, of course, super useful in the trailer genre. And then we've got our riser section. Again, not a huge riser section, but you can sound design it to taste. Have one section of sub booms. Trailer hits. So a fair amount of hits, and then we have a section where there's nothing kind of preceding or doing a crescendo onto the hit. It's just the hit. So same samples, just edited. And then last thing we've got is our Wooshes. So small section of those. So all in all, I think it's definitely worth the money for what they're charging for it. It's a great tool to have. It's they probably could have charged about 4 times what they're charging for this library, and I still would have bought it. So good job, Viral Audio. I'm a fan. I'm looking forward to see what else you guys come up with here in the future. Being that this is your first plug-in, I was pretty impressed. It's always exciting when a new company enters the scene with a product that actually adds value. ASCENT gave me some great new textures to work with, and it might do the same for you. I'll have the link down below if you want to go ahead and check it out yourself.